Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, the champion, fighting out of Los Angeles, California. This man is a movie snob with a background in fighting and a lifelong addiction to all things superhero related. Presenting the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the show, the Iron Cube.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is episode number 153 of the Iron Cube Fights Movies. This episode is available on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, and hosted by SoundCloud. I'm Keo, your host. With me on the show today are my co-hosts Emerson.
Hey, what's going on?
And Everette.
Hey, what's up?
This week the team reviews The Recruit, followed by movie, television, and video game news. I'm going to explain our rating system. On this show, we give the titles that we have watched a rating of win, draw, or loss. A win is a title that we would highly recommend, while a draw is a title we didn't love but recognize others may appreciate. A loss means we do not recommend the title. If you have not seen the review of the week and would like to avoid spoilers, check the show notes for the timestamp so you can still hear our news sections. Alright, here's the synopsis. In an era when the country's first line of defense, human intelligence, is more important than ever, comes an explosive thriller that gives an insider's view into the CIA's secret training ground, The Farm. James Clayton, played by Colin Farrell, might not have the attitude of a typical recruit, but he is one of the smartest graduating seniors in the country. And he's just the person that Walter Burke, played by Al Pacino, wants in the agency. Alright, Emerson, you going to go?
Yeah. So I'll give this movie a win. I was surprised. A lot of times I'm kind of over the spy movies. I'm gonna be real. We've seen quite a few of them, and I was like, oh great, it's an older spy movie. But I really enjoyed it. Particularly, what I enjoyed is the part I enjoy most about spy movies is the training and the setup. But usually that's like 10 to 15, 20 minutes and then it's gone. But about half this movie was the training and the setup, and it had some interesting twists and didn't go where I thought it was gonna go. So I'm going to give it a win. I enjoyed it. It was a little cheesy at some points, and some of the acting was a little like, okay, but because of the plot and because of what happened and how it surprised me and how it kept me engaged and interested, I have to give it a win.
Did you notice one of the writers?
No, I did not.
It's the father of someone we know.
Really? Oh my God.
All right, Ever, what's your review?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I saw that when the movie started up as well. I'm going to give this movie a win as well. I was comparing this to Jason Bourne the entire time I was watching it, and I feel like Bourne should have done what this movie did. I agree with Emerson. I really enjoyed the training sequences. I feel like they showed you just enough to like get you interested, but not like too much to like overbore you with it. Al Pacino is a fantastic actor, but like I knew that going in. There are a few moments in this movie that I'll bring up in spoilers that I didn't really like that much or kind of confused me a little bit. But for the most part, I think this movie is very well made, very well acted, very well written, and I'll go into spoilers a little bit more.
So when I first watched this, I was younger. It came out in 2003, so I was probably 13, 14. I thought it was a really good movie. And then I found out later on that, that guy we know wrote it. He told me himself that he wrote it. And I was like, oh, I love that movie. So it was always something that I wanted to go back and watch again. I'll say that I flip-flopped really hard on my rating. Like I went from I like this to, okay, I can't give this a win, to like, this is pretty bad, to, okay, it's not so bad. And then being like, you know what? That was actually pretty damn good. I'm not sure where exactly I settled, but I know that the ending like was a lot better. It made the movie a lot better. So for that, I think I'll give it a win. Also, compared to like other movies of the spy genre, it's probably one of the better ones because like the other ones are terrible.
As we've been going through.
I would say this is comparable to The Bourne Identity. It's somewhere around the same quality. I think I prefer that movie, but I like this for some of the reasons you guys said. It's kind of a different flavor. But the Bourne sequels, toss all those. The James Bonds, aside from Casino Royale, like toss those. There's been a couple others like Spy Game that never really like interested me that much. I tried to watch it like 3 times and I never really got why everyone liked it. And then there's like the action-y spy movies that no one cares about. But so I give it a win. But all right, let's go into spoilers. There's parts of this film that really show that it's from the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's
like
a little dated.
A lot of the dialogue,
music,
a lot of the introductions,
the dialogue.
Yeah.
Especially when the guy like comes in, he's like, "Yeah, I was on my waterbed and like it cracked through," and like he's just talking. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that whole sequence where he's late and he's like that screams early 2000s.
Yeah.
The other one was like go ahead.
Well, I was going to say like the whole startup sequence with Spartacus and everything. The whole screen that he had definitely was a little outdated.
Right. Yeah, the technology is too, but I don't blame them for that. And then there was like all the boxing scenes. For sure, if they made that movie today, they would have had MMA scenes instead.
Yeah.
100. Because there was that one movie with I don't really know who he is, but I think it's Dylan O'Brien, and Michael Keaton was like his mentor, kind of like this movie. And like they were showing how he was like the highest ranked recruit, and he was like doing MMA in the trailer, like stupid. Do you guys know what movie I'm talking about?
No, I don't think so.
It's not old. It's not that old. I want to say within the past 5 years. I think it's based on a book. Oh, Dylan O'Brien is from Mira Costa. Okay. There was The Maze Runner. American Assassin. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yes, I do remember
2017.
that, actually. It's on Netflix, I think.
It has 3 out of 5 stars. I don't really feel like watching it, but
We've seen enough of the spies.
Well, there's always Mission Impossible.
no. I tried to rewatch those, and like until they got super actiony, they were
Pretty
I think
bad.
they were good for their time. Let's
Yeah,
put it
but
that way.
you can't go back and watch them now because they aren't unique. They're just like their own thing. Now it's a spectacle, and that makes it interesting. But before
Right.
they were just trying to be everything else, and we've seen that.
You go to watch Tom Cruise basically kill himself on camera with all of his own stunts.
Right. Then there were like some other lines, like some of the dialogue. Like at one point, he asks Layla, like, "So do you still think about it? The farm, I mean." And I was like, "This is such a old type way of like writing dialogue. Like people don't really talk like that in movies anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's like more like things you'd see on TV, like the CW, that type of dialogue. Because the CW is like outdated.
Yeah.
Their shows are very like they're the kind of shows like Seventh Heaven. It's like they're almost in the same universe, like that kind of show. So yeah, so it did feel a little dated to me, but especially with the technology. What did you guys think about the training aspect?
I enjoyed that. As I said in my like initial review, most movies have like a 10-20 minute training scene and then they go into the field. And I've always found the training part to be one of the more interesting parts. Like, I like that. Like, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And I liked watching the training. It was still a little dated, but I liked, like, you know, they're always being watched. Everything's a test. They're talking about the polygraphs, which don't actually work and are essentially useless in the real world, but whatever. They're talking about the polygraphs. They're doing the bug testing. They're doing, like, firearms testing. They're going out on these missions. Everything. I enjoyed all that.
So one of the reasons I wanted to watch this is because it actually had some of like the spy Splinter Cell type stuff that I was interested in. They didn't do too much of it, but some of it was there, like sneaking in undetected, blah blah blah. But do they actually? Because I don't know. The real training is not like this, right?
No, not at all.
They don't do any of this crap.
They
So
do
there's-
enhanced interrogation tactics, right?
No. So in the CIA, you have two different groups. Okay, you have like CIA people who are just agents who can range from anywhere from like you sit behind a desk to you go into the field to talk to someone. but they very rarely do anything like gigantic. Most of it's based on hacking, especially today. The second group, the people who do stuff that is more similar like this, is the Special Operations Group, SOG. They were really, really active in Vietnam, and they still exist today, but no one really knows what they do. So the Special Operations Group, they're the ones who go in with like the guns and stuff. The one thing they did say in this that is true is most CIA agents tend to have official covers. They work at embassies or consulates, and so they can't get hit. Now, yes, there are people who are unofficial cover, but they're pretty rare and no one knows a ton about them, but they aren't like, oh, you're suddenly good at hand-to-hand combat. What they will do is they will take someone who already has experience from like military intelligence, and they'll see like, okay, this guy speaks 4 languages, he already knows how to shoot, he did 2 tours in Afghanistan, let's bring him in. And they'll have him go out. They don't take you off the street and then like give you a couple solid weeks of training and off you go.
Right. Yeah. And like there was one scene where he gets on the bus and Layla and that other guy
are speaking in Farsi.
They're speaking Farsi, but it's like
horrible.
The Farsi, it's so bad. And it's because if I had to guess, I would say they paid someone to translate a conversation to Farsi. But they didn't pay that person to come on set, so they just kind of like read it. Like the cadence was completely wrong, like to the point where I almost couldn't understand what they were saying. Like at one point she asks him, "Where are you from?" And the way she says it is "To mala inja" or "koja," something like that. Like she used weird grammar, but instead of saying it in like 3 different words, she said it like, instead of saying to mala koja, she said tomala koja. Like
she like combined them.
Like clearly you read it. You don't know, like you don't know how it's supposed to sound at all. So there was no. I was kind of like, I don't remember it being so bad. And then I don't know what they were trying to pass her off as like Middle Eastern. Did you guys buy that?
No, not at all.
Sorta. They said she had a fake last name, that she was like growing up overseas.
Yeah, but she didn't look Middle Eastern. She looked incredibly.
Obviously, she didn't look Middle Eastern, but they gave her like a background of like.
But don't you think that if she was Middle Eastern, she should look a little Middle Eastern?
I mean, you don't have to be like. You don't have to look it.
But
to
if
grow
she's
up there,
born
right?
to an Algerian, should she not look Algerian?
Well, her other one was French, right? So I feel like that
French
happened.
Algerian.
So, what, Emerson? You're doing like that Flickr thing. I don't know if there's anything you can do. But
Let me see.
What I think happened was because they wrote it in L.A. and in L.A. there's a lot of Persian women, and I assume like the Persian women are usually like done up really well or whatever, and they don't necessarily look like what you would expect of a Middle Eastern woman. And I think what they took from her was like they gave her like that dark red hair because some women like with darker complexions like to dye their hair that red. Like my mom even did it at one point. So I think they like kind of based her off of that kind of look and gave her a tan, or maybe they just color corrected it. Isn't she Tom Brady's? Didn't she have like Tom Brady's baby or something?
I have no idea.
I think she was married to Tom Brady at one point. I saw that in her bio.
I don't think, because she's normally not as dark as she is in this movie. I don't think.
Yeah, she with Tom Brady from 2004 to 2006.
But anyway, all right. So she's like some type of Middle Eastern person. I didn't really like Colin Farrell in this either.
He wasn't that great.
Yeah, but at the time he was pretty popular.
I can tell. Well, it was interesting. After you mentioned that we knew one of the writers, I looked at the other things he did, and Colin Farrell's been in a couple of the other ones as well.
Oh, really?
Total Recall comes to mind, the remake.
Yeah. Interesting. So then, okay, so they get to the training. Like when they were doing the firearm disarming, that was really dumb.
Yes.
Where he like flips the guy over his shoulder.
A 360 with one arm.
I was like, okay, so I know that that's bullshit, and the other stuff they're doing that I don't know about is probably bullshit too.
The one thing I saw is similar to that. So there's that one point where they all are shooting their pistols, and they bring in the the body. What I liked about that is they all had center of mass targets, and in a lot of these spy movies, it's like, look, they get headshots, but you are taught to aim for center of mass because it's very difficult to consistently hit someone's head. But if you put 3 rounds into someone's chest,
right. I didn't buy that he had like a perfect grouping, and he's like Nintendo. That's such a 2000
that
thing.
was dated as hell. Yeah.
All right, what else? Okay, what did you think about that bar scene?
I thought it was interesting initially because I was like, okay, so they're going out, like I like the idea that they're training in like a realistic environment. But then when he became like interested in more, I kind of lost interest because I was like, ugh. And then when she backstabbed them, I was like, okay, cool. So they're all training. I like that better.
Yeah, I thought that was good. What did you think about the interrogation room?
I really liked that scene because so one of the things...
It's so funny because I knew the twist, and like watching it when you know the twist, to me it seems so obvious.
So I knew for a fact that it was a test because I was like, it's too early in the movie for him to get legit captured.
Who would capture him? He doesn't know anything.
Exactly. But so the thing is, I knew it was a test, but what I liked about that is in the real world, the consensus is 2 things. First of all, torture doesn't work because they're just going to tell you whatever. But second of all, that it's impossible to resist torture. Like that idea of the guy who's just silent and like never says anything, that doesn't really work. What'll end up happening is you'll end up saying whatever to get the pain to stop.
Right.
Because like, and so like, I'm glad that he broke, and I'm glad that Al Pacino was like, don't get caught, because that is the truth. Eventually you will just say whatever you think they want, whether it's true or not.
But how could he be so dumb to think that he was actually captured?
Well, I mean, it looked like they were physically like shocking him and stuff. And the other thing is I was like, wow, this guy's like a random computer nerd like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, all right, I can buy that he can't like figure out what's going on.
I mean, yeah, I kind of had an idea of what was going on because they did quite a bit of foreshadowing for a bunch of stuff in this movie. And remember, like when Al Pacino took him out for like that crab dinner, and he pointed out that they were getting followed. He's like, yeah, they loiter around looking for people that are coming out of the farm. Like I kind of expected that. After that, I'm like, oh well, everything really is a test.
It's true, but I'm like, I have to know that I'm not useful. Like I'm not worth kidnapping. As they're like saying, talk, we're gonna make you talk. It's like, if you had any idea who I was, you would know I know nothing. You just picked a random young guy that walked out of the building and you kidnapped him. Like, what do you want me to say? That Walter Burke it's not even his real name? What do you want me to say? And then they like, I don't know, I guess they made her piss her pants. You know, when I watched it before, I liked that scene, I think. But now it was a little funny. And then when he gets to the end, and he, like, towards the end of the movie where he kills the guy from the school, what was that guy's name?
Zach?
Just a blonde guy, yeah.
Zach.
Like, he kills him, and I don't know. It's like, how do you not know that he's testing you? It seems really obvious. Did it seem obvious to you guys?
I didn't see that as a test. I saw that as like he was using Clayton to kill Zach.
He was, yeah, but it was the ruse was very transparent to me. Like he's obviously manipulating him to do things.
See, I didn't realize that at that point. I was like, okay, so I guess she's evil, and like, but then when he killed Zach, it was confusing. But I don't know, I hadn't seen it. I wasn't entirely sure what was going on.
Yeah, I didn't really catch it at that point.
So it works then.
Yeah, it seemed to. I mean, obviously on a rewatch, none of the mystery is there. Because, like, looking back, I'm like, all right, the guy's just a manipulative piece of crap the entire movie. And he tells him, like, the problem is getting things out. Like, looking back, it all falls together really nicely.
The ending really elevates the movie.
Yeah.
When he gets to that scene where they sit in the car and he, like, points the gun at Al Pacino, who I actually thought he was pretty good, Al Pacino.
Yeah, he was fine.
He was, like, playing himself a bit, but it's okay. He points the gun at him, and he's like, and Al Pacino starts saying, like, we're gonna go meet him in a half hour. Like, I knew that he was lying about that, but I thought he was doing a good job of, like, being convincing. Were you guys convinced?
No, I knew he was dead, but I was like, there was a moment, like, I knew Al Pacino was bad at that point, because, like, Moore's performance, I was like, I believe she doesn't know what she's doing. And I believe Zach was not the bad guy because he's not set up to be the bad guy. He's set up to be like a competitor, but not a bad guy. So I was like,
Right.
okay, I'll buy that Al Pacino's lying. But yeah, he was doing a good job of trying to make it not a lie.
The part that really didn't work was when he said that Zach was wearing squibs.
And that
I'm
the
like-
gun had blanks in it.
I'm like, but doesn't that mean that you would have to know where Colin Farrell was going to shoot him in
Yeah.
order for the squibs to be realistic, right? Yeah, that's how squibs work, right?
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, blood appears. Like, no, he has to be like, oh, and he has to like detonate them at the moment. And also, like, he clearly died, bro. Like,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so he killed him, and so yeah, they're in that scene where Al Pacino's like, "Oh, my pants are ruined," and and all that. And I mean, I thought that was good. Even I, for a second, was like, "Wait a second." I thought this ended with Al Pacino being the bad guy.
Yeah.
So he like fights the gun and he runs away, and they go into the warehouse. And you know, it's written pretty well, this twist here, where he fakes that he's broadcasting or recording or something.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do?
He set it up so that he was trying to broadcast it, but apparently it got interrupted. Then when they went outside, he made it look like that. He made it look like that he'd actually got the connection through. So Al Pacino started monologuing, and that's when everyone who showed up realized, oh, he's really the bad guy.
but yeah, what convinced him was after he couldn't get the connection through, he had like a fake screen up that showed
Yeah.
it like a transmission to CIA headquarters. So that's why Al Pacino was like, "Fuck, they're here for me." So then, yeah, whatever.
I thought that was pretty good.
It was. I like that because it shows that he's clever, and it also like it tricks the viewer without betraying the viewer because you're like, all right, that makes sense.
And it's also like, aside from it all working out and not being bullshit, I also thought like the dialogue and the, you know, everything about that scene was really working. Like when he looks at Colin Farrell and he's like, "You got to admit, I'm a scary something of talent."
Judge of talent.
Judge
or
of talent, yeah.
yeah.
And he's right. Like he found a guy that like really knew what he was doing about this one thing, and it was
One
also
of the things
a
I-
fake. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I liked about his monologue at the end, because I was like, okay, why is this guy turning traitor? I almost feel like they wanted to say, and this is completely like speculation, I almost feel like they wanted to say that he had like warned the CIA about 9/11, but they didn't do anything. Because they kept referencing when they met and he's like, "You're a bunch of old white guys who weren't there when we need you." They were referencing 9/11. This came out in 2003. So, like 9/11 had happened.
Yeah, you know what? I was too young, but I remember that sentiment, and part of it was from this movie, but I remember that sentiment was out there.
Yeah, of
And
course
I don't
it's
know
like,
what
the
it's
fuck do you
from.
people do. Well, it's from a very realistic thing where it was like, what the hell is the point of the the Central Intelligence Agency when you guys can't figure shit out? By the way, 9/11 is part of the reason the NSA started to gain precedent because the
Right.
CIA was too focused on Cold War era spycraft, where the NSA was like, we'll just get everyone's communications and that's how we'll know what's going on.
Right.
But anyways, so. But when he has that rant, he says like, "I tell you what you need to do. I tell you who you need to take out, and all you need to do is do it. But you don't do it. You bring me back and you send me here." And I'm like, is he referring to 9/11? I just wondered. I was like, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but it makes sense.
You know what? You know, now that I remember, you know, one thing that kind of was also a product of the times in this movie is that, remember how he said like whatever the virus that he was smuggling out of the headquarters, he was gonna sell it for like $3 million.
Yeah, that inflation.
Yeah, I feel like that would have been a little higher.
Well, let me look. This was what? This is set in. Let's
You're
see,
talking about Colin
2003.
Farrell's thing?
No,
No,
Al Pacino said he
Al
was
Pacino.
selling the virus for $3 million.
Oh. All right. Let me think. What else? What did you guys think about that like bugging training session?
I like the idea of it, but it was executed kind of stupidly.
It didn't
Like,
make sense. Yeah.
It was just like kind of dumb.
How are they tripping alarms and like getting locked in rooms? Like, how is that realistic training? What are they doing?
Well, I mean, he showed that there were like tripwires and stuff. But
There were tripwires, but like I don't. What are they training? Like, there's no one. I don't know. Are they going to be sneaking into empty buildings with only tripwires? It's like
Okay,
weird.
well, $3 million in today's money is $4,261,000. So I guess he's just not a great.
He got lowballed.
Yeah.
What else? What else about this movie? I didn't care about that his whole thing with his dad. I didn't care about that at all.
No, I didn't care about
Yeah.
it either. But the only thing I did kind of like about it is like, so he gets introduced to it, like he's unsure. Then Al Pacino's like, no, yeah, your dad was an agent. Then he's like, no, he wasn't. Get fucked. And then the guy at the end is like, it's in your blood. Like it's suggesting like, okay, maybe he was an agent. It just kind of provides some of that sense of like who's lying to who.
I think his dad was like that was part of the ploy to get him to join, right?
Yeah.
Why did he need him? Because of the computer hacking thing?
I think,
That he was
he
trying to
was just
steal?
trying to find someone that would be loyal to him, kind of.
But that could steal the program? Is that what?
Well, no, because so he had Moore and Zach stealing the program. He was using Clayton to clean it up, because Clayton, remember, he like kicks him out, then privately tells him he didn't kick him out, and then Clayton like kills all the people involved, and he can just say, oh, he was angry that he got kicked out and killed everybody.
Right. Okay. One thing I will say, like, I'm a sucker for that origin story where the mentor turns out to be the bad guy.
I've noticed.
Like, I really like it, and I think like this could have kicked off a cool franchise if you had like maybe not Colin Farrell, and if it was a little less cheesy, like you could have had like his next mission as the sequel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Like a Jack Ryan type character, something like that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for this one?
I had one more thing that I forgot to mention is that when he's on the escalator and he's on the phone and he's saying like I killed him, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, first of all, they already told you that cell phones are traceable and like homing devices and unsafe, so you're telling that like on a cell phone. Second of all, you're in public, surrounded by people saying as loud as you can, "I killed a man." Isn't that like a little like not cautious?
Wasn't it also funny when he like ran her off the road?
Yeah, that went on too long.
Like, stop your car! Slams into a tree.
Yeah, he throws her into a tree. And then they're both telling each other to disappear. Like they're both like disappear. She's like, "Did you disappear?"
Part of me kind of wanted to see what it would be like from her perspective, like how she was manipulated into taking everything out.
Well, also like the things he was clearly doing like are not acceptable. Like he's like a mailroom clerk and he's on her computer and like there were a lot of red flags.
Yeah. There's another thing. Well, there's one more thing. It's about Colin Farrell. I think this was before he like not went off the deep end, but his like string of weird things started happening to him in Hollywood. I started looking at them like he had like a drug problem. The thing that I was reading though
I
is
could have told you that.
there was a thing like a year or two after this, I think, where he was on Leno, and like a crazed stalker came up from the crowd and interrupted the show, and they had to be escorted off by security, and it got cut. But it's like a big thing. Like he was like getting stalked. She was like a phone sex operator.
Confronted Farrell and threw a self-published book-length expose of Farrell on Leno's desk.
Yeah.
As Farrell escorted her off the stage and handed her over to NBC security, she shouted, "I'll see you in court." After being held by the Burbank police, Bradford was released. The next day, Farrell obtained a restraining order against her, and the incident was edited out of the broadcast. Bradford had twice attempted to sue Farrell for abusive messages, but the lawsuits were dismissed due to lack of evidence. She failed the lie detector test on an Ion television program when attempting to prove her claims. And then he made a sex tape. In 2006, Farrell filed a lawsuit against his former girlfriend, Playboy model Nicole Narayan, and the Internet Commerce Group for unauthorized public distribution of a 13-minute sex tape, which they made in 2003. He was offered $5 million for its rights. While ICG tried to release it, Narayan said that she would work with Farrell to ensure that the tape remained private. Farrell said she tried to release it to damage his acting career and make money out of it, a claim that Ryan denies. They reached a confidential settlement. Farrell's lawsuit against ICG continued with a trial date of 2006. Eventually, it was settled. Interesting.
So yeah, he had a lot of weird shit go on a couple years after this movie came out.
But so he had a big movie in Minority Report in 2002, and then he was in Phone Booth in 2002, and then he was in this movie, and then he was in Daredevil, and then he was in SWAT, which is not a bad action film. Have you guys ever seen SWAT?
No.
It's not bad. Then he played Alexander in 2004, Miami Vice in 2006, which was weird. Pride and Glory, I don't know what that is. In Bruges, that's a good movie. He was in Crazy Heart. He was in The Way Back, which was not too many people saw that. Horrible Bosses. He's had a decent career. Total Recall. Saving Mr. Banks. I don't remember what that was. And then I guess actually he had a couple years there where he didn't really do anything interesting until Roman J. Israel. Do you guys remember that one with
yes,
Denzel Washington?
I do.
That was only 3 years ago. And then Widows, I guess. Dude, it's been... Wait a second. It's been 2 years since Widows came out? Jesus. I feel like that was just... You know what? Wasn't there another movie that just came out that was like Widows? With the girl from Mad Men?
Yes. Oh, wait. It was the one where they were like gangster...
It was like Hell's Women...
Kitchen. Yeah. Queen of some... Hell? I don't know. Fuck,
and then he was in Dumbo. And then he was in The Gentleman, which we didn't see. And apparently he's in Artemis Fowl, which isn't out yet. And he's in the Batman as the Penguin.
So bad.
He could make a good Penguin.
He is the Penguin. So I think his career's been pretty good, all things considered. I don't even think he really acts that well. Also, he was in the Harry Potter film. Remember?
Fantastic Beasts. Yeah.
Yeah. When he was actually pretty good in that. I liked him in that.
He was okay in that. Yeah.
Before he turned into Johnny Depp.
It's a weird role. Yeah.
Listen, I stand with Johnny Depp.
I stand with him too, but
all his films are A's now.
Oh, okay. So this is
not
off
gonna go
topic,
see Aquaman too.
But so Ryan was texting me.
Okay.
And he's like, I just tried to watch episode 2. I had to turn it off after 5 minutes. It was so bad. And I was like, episode 2 of what? He's like, Star Wars. I was like, you mean the movie or the show? He's like, what show? And I said, there's an animated Clone Wars that sucks. And he's like, oh, okay. I thought you meant The Mandalorian. And I was like, that sucks too. he's like, oh, you must be crazy. You must have the coronavirus. The final episode is amazing.
Oh,
and I was like, it's really not. It's so tropey. Every single second. It's the most predictable show. Anticlimactic fan service bullshit. He had nothing to say. And then he's like, you know what else? He's like, I've never been bored more by a movie than Aquaman. That movie has made me fall asleep 3 times. I only tried to watch it because I heard there was a hot redhead in it. And I was like, yeah, she's the one that falsely accused Johnny Depp. And he was like, wow, seems like she has a lot of problems. And I said, yeah, she seems like your type.
Jesus Christ, Kia just roasted him on the daily.
He said if wrestling doesn't come back in the winter, he might kill himself.
Oh, wow.
Boy.
Don't do that, Ryan. The world needs you.
All right, is there a fight of the week?
There is actually a fight of the week.
All right.
Everette is an agent at the farm. Everette has been passing his training fairly well. Kia is the interrogator during the fake interrogation. Kia, you are not allowed to physically do anything to him. You must get Everette to give up the names of the people who work at the farm without doing any sort of physical torture. So you have to feed him. You can't like hose him down with cold water. You can't shock him. You have to just simply get him to give it up without any sort of physical torture. Now, Everette has been through the training, but he is also Everette. He is at the same level that Colin was at that point. So, but Colin was physically tortured. You are not allowed to physically torture Everette.
Can I feed him?
What do you mean? Can you feed him?
You said I could feed him.
You have to give him food, yes.
Okay. How about a juicy steak?
Oh, God. Well, you can't force him to eat.
Oh, can I give him an IV of steak juice?
No. I'm not letting you like cause him to have like horrible pain.
You guys ever hear of that like old dilemma where it's like you stick a vegetarian in a room with like a slab of beef, and do they eat it before it goes rotten?
That's what I was about to do. Yeah, I'm just gonna like come in and like bring in a bunch of people, like my friends and family. Hey, we're gonna have a barbecue, and everyone's hanging out. The smell of the steak and the burgers and the hot dogs. And I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna be like, Everett, I'll be back in a couple hours.
That's too easy though, because every time I've hung out with Everett, he's like, "Should I try meat today?" Like he's willing to do it on his own.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that I can't eat it because I'll get sick, but it smells really good. That's the problem.
He's gonna get really sick. He's gonna shit his pants, and then he's gonna be like, "Can I have a new pair of pants?" And I'm like, "There's no more pants." And then I'm gonna be like, "But by the way, here's some fresh steaks." And I'm going to leave it right there, and he's going to be like, oh, fuck. And he's like, I can't eat this. And I'm going to say, I want the names of every person that works there.
I feel like that would
and
work
I'll bring
because
you
it's
mac and cheese.
At some point, if I keep eating the meat, it's going to, like, my body's going to, like, should be fine with it eventually.
Yeah, and then I'll cut you off. Nothing but salads. And you're going to be like, I need the meat. I think that would get him to talk. Now, if I have to, like, mentally manipulate him, honestly, yes. I would put him. Okay, I would, if I could put myself, I would put him in a cell with another person, preferably myself.
Okay.
And have the interrogator break me. And as soon as I break, Everett will definitely break.
So he's like, "Oh fuck you."
What makes you say that?
100%. If we're both like being like not fed properly and like tortured and like we're gonna kill your family and stuff, then I'll be like, Everett, I don't know, man. I can't do this. There's no way you're gonna be holding strong.
What if like you're gonna like beg me for your life or something?
If I lose it, you are definitely gonna lose it with me. There's no way you're not. You're gonna be a solid rock while I'm sitting there freaking out. I'll be like, I'll tell you everything. There's no way.
And actually, I wouldn't find that suspicious at all.
No, here's what would happen. Kia would break and start saying, "I'll give you all the information Everett knows. Kill him and let me live." And everyone would be like, "You asshole! Yeah. No, I'll tell you everything I know. Kill him."
And then Everett says it, and they cut the ropes off of my hands instead.
And Everett's like, "What?" And Kia goes, "The game was rigged from the start." Everett's just like,
"What did I tell you, Everett? Nothing is real."
And the Coyote Crew music starts playing.
Jesus Christ.
No, the Jason Bourne music starts playing.
Yeah. All right, so let's go to Roundup.
Alrighty.
All right, so Clone Wars new season episode 9 in spoilers.
Yes.
I tried to watch it. It is the best
episode this season. It is without a doubt the best episode this season.
I could see why you were saying that. I still couldn't get through it, but I see like the way they were talking kind of sounded like big things were happening.
Well, okay, the reason I liked it, so we got to see some more of the like war part. Like the clones, actually, I was really shocked by that like opening fight sequence. Like it looked really good. And then it like didn't look good as they continued, but I was like, whatever. Also,
is that the one where they're like in the ships?
They're on the bridge. No, the one where they're on the bridge. Like when it's just Obi-Wan with like Commander Cody fighting. Like it looked really good. And the one on the ships was okay too. But what I was going to say was we're starting to see like scene for scene how this is blending with Revenge of the Sith. You got Anakin and Obi-Wan being recalled to Coruscant. You see that weird Jedi that gets killed on Felucia. You see her on Felucia with the clones. Yes, Aayla Secura with the clones that they reference that Shaak Ti is guarding the counselor from the original Clone Wars movies. Like, I like that stuff. It was okay. Then Ahsoka came in and was being like kind of bitchy, and she was like mouthing off to Obi-Wan, and I was like, what right do you have to like talk to Obi? Do you understand what this guy has done? Like, do you understand
or will what he's do going? Within the next 2 days?
Like, you need to fuck off. And then, so that was kind of annoying. I liked the Siege of Mandalore. Like, it was fun to watch. And like it was okay. Like let me put it this way. I'm interested to see where this arc goes, but if this was the only episode, I'd be like it was mediocre at best. The only reason I say it's the best one of this season was because every single other episode of the season was literally hot garbage. I'd like to point out I didn't even watch the middle arc. And I you know how I know it's bad? Those fan pages that are obsessed with it, they're all like, well, it wasn't my favorite, and I understand it kind of breaks it. I really enjoyed it. Like, the minute they admit anything, like, even slightly negative, because these are the fan accounts on Instagram that are
terrible.
Like... Yeah.
If you never watched it, you don't truly understand. Those two girls are possibly the most annoying people I've ever seen in Star Wars.
I know. But my point is that these are the accounts that are like, The Last Jedi was a 10 out of 10, and The Mandalorian was an 11 out of 10. Like, A+ for humor. Like, these are those type of people who nothing is bad. So the minute they say, oh, it wasn't the best, you know it's garbo.
Well, like, it was like 4 episodes of nothing. They got captured, and 2 episodes go by, and they're still captured.
Yes, I know. And twice in that arc, they, like, escape and then get captured.
Yeah. And the Pikes are dumb. They don't execute them or anything.
So shameless. But, so I skimmed through it. It was... you know what? Show me some episodes. Like I would like. It's too late now, but I'd like for them to go back and maybe, like, just show more of the Clone Wars from like Anakin and Obi-Wan's perspective, but without all of these like made up characters. Like we could do a scene for scene reshot of, or maybe not exactly scene for scene, but like of Episode 3. Like, you could have done the Clone Wars and blended it with, like, your new canon. Because it's not like you're taking away money from Episode 3 anymore. So you could have just kind of, like, redone it with the same scenes, hit the same check marks, but also put the in-between scenes and made that a show. And I would have been, like, more time between Palpatine and Anakin, stuff like that. I don't want to see Ahsoka running around with Maul.
And you know the funny part about this, Kia? You know how you constantly say Ahsoka doesn't exist? Well, I have some bad news for you. She 100% exists now. She's being cast in The Mandalorian. She's being blended in with Revenge of the Sith. It's over, bro. She exists.
She's not going to be blended in.
She exists.
She's going to be in it as much as possible.
She exists.
Without being in any of it.
She exists. And you know what? In the next Star Wars movie, Rey and Ahsoka are going to team up to fight the Emperor's clone's son.
Maybe they'll fall in love.
I wouldn't push
like
that
a sugar mama relationship. Yeah, let me tell you what the big climactic ending is. Ahsoka versus Darth Maul.
Yeah, which I don't care about. You know what I want to see, though? I want to see Order 66. And I'd really like it.
You're going to be disappointed.
No, I know I'm going to be disappointed. But what I would like to happen is the clones try to kill Ahsoka. I would also like to see some of Anakin on Coruscant. Like, I want to see more of that. Like, show me a longer sequence of Anakin marching on the temple.
Okay, I'm into Anakin on Coruscant, but I don't... Everything else you said... toss it in the trash can.
They're going to give you, like, a hint or something. Like, she's going to be in the middle of the fight, and Order 66 is going to happen. She's going to get some force flash of Anakin turning to the dark side.
She's going to save herself in some cool way. That's totally predictable.
But because you don't like the clones as much. I actually like the clones more than any of the Jedi bullshit. I like seeing the war part of it. Like, that interests me.
There is no war part of it.
There is a war part of it, but we only get to see, like, moments of it. The reason why my favorite arc is the Umbra arc is because the whole arc is just war. That's the reason. That's my favorite arc in this entire godforsaken
I don't
show.
even like the art style, to be honest.
It's okay.
I kind of wanted to see, like, a recreation of Episode 3 in that art style, like, with the same voice actors and stuff.
Well, that's what I was saying. Just make Episode 3 again, but with more in it.
Yeah.
You don't need to, like, tiptoe around the scenes. Like, we're getting this pieced apart, like, storyline, right? Because now it's going to, like, sort of jump in time. So you're going to skip... You're going to go from before Episode 3 starts to Order 66 because you don't want to show what's in the movie. Mm-hmm. It's weird. And you don't have to do it like that. Like, who's asking for you to do it that way? It's not like there's Episode 3 still in theaters and people are going to watch your show instead of going to the movies for that. You could do whatever you want at this point. Instead, they spent like 8 episodes on fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And this whole time, out of all the things they could have done, because there's like a dozen more of those unfinished episodes that seemed cooler.
Yeah. Anyway, I finished season 2 of episode Korra. That really took a downhill turn.
You just said I finished season 2 of episode Korra.
Oh, of Legend of Korra. I finished
it's
season
bad,
2,
isn't it?
yeah. It got pretty bad, but that was also like the whole Nickelodeon was not renewing them properly, and like they didn't know how many episodes they were going to have, and so when you look at it through this lens, it was originally going to be a mini series. Did you guys know that? Did I say that last week?
Yeah, you told us that last week.
So it was originally going to be a mini series, those 10 episodes or whatever. And so they did that, and it was just like, oh, a new Avatar. And, look at Aang's family, and she has a villain. He's taking away bending. That's like a good way to up the ante from Aang. And then it's like, okay, you're back for a second one. But then they tell you it's only going to be a few episodes. So you start this Civil War thing, and then they're like, actually, we're going to give you like 5 more episodes. And then you're like, okay, then now let's turn it into like, since this is the end, let's turn it into a big thing. And they actually did. I don't remember if I mentioned this last week, but I said that like maybe having an avatar that turns evil. Mm-hmm. So they kind of did that thing where the water guy turns into like a dark avatar.
Yeah.
But they didn't really do it right. But
I know.
But they didn't have like it just got messed up. The whole thing just got messed up. So then they get renewed for season 3, and they actually know what they're going to do. And Emerson, I'm not sure what you were talking. I haven't finished season 3, but so far it's been pretty good.
You'll see. Oh, no, I didn't say season 3 was bad. I like season 3. I said season 2 was bad.
But you also said when I get to Zahira that it's not as good as I remember.
You'll see. And also, like, a lot of what I was talking about was like the tech switch.
Oh, the season 4 then?
Yeah, maybe I'm confusing because it's been a while since I watched it.
Zahir and his little gang, they're pretty badass. And Zahir is cool. Did you know how many famous people are doing voice acting in that?
Yeah, quite a few.
J.K. Simmons is Tenzin. Henry Rollins is Zahir. There's others I can't remember. I feel like there was at least one other big... Daniel Day Kim was the Amon guy, or he was the president, something like that. Oh, no, he was Asami's father. Is that her name? I don't know.
Roughly.
I like that show. I'm looking forward to finishing it. And then I'm going to read that book, the Kyoshi book.
Aubrey Plaza's in that show?
She's probably the twins.
Eska? I forget who that was.
Yeah. Eska. It was like the Water Tribes, her cousins, Korra's cousins or whatever. I also finished Game of Thrones. And I have to say, having binged it from start to finish, instead of like waiting for seasons, I thought the show was a lot better this time. Some characters that really stuck with me, like I noticed them more than I have previously, was Melisandre. I thought she was a lot better. I liked her thing. And Brienne. And, the whole 8th season, I gotta say, when Daenerys comes into Winterfell at the start of season 8, like, that is a pretty badass moment. When the dragons fly overhead and scare everybody, and she's looking all smug.
Well, it's like a recreation of season 1, right? When the Baratheons come into Winterfell.
So, yes, it is a recreation, but like I'm just saying, like the context of Daenerys and her dragons in Winterfell, it's done very well. Like you feel like the presence of someone new in that area. Like the dynamic has changed. It's not just the Northerners anymore. Mm-hmm. And the Northerners are like on edge about it. You could feel the tension. And I'm not defending the final episode because the final episode is trash. It really is. Yeah. But when you look at like I don't know. I got to be honest, like I don't think the writing was as bad as I initially thought. When you look at season 7, like season 7 has one of the best scenes in television, in my opinion, is when Jon Snow discovers, or it's revealed like who he is, his name and all that during that love scene. Mm-hmm. But they start doing this thing where like the characters are not having as much. Okay, when you come to the end of the story, like things start consolidating and it becomes about like bigger pieces moving as opposed to like small little details.
Yes.
It's like every third movie of a trilogy, right? Where it's like the big battle
Yes.
Okay, so Game of Thrones is like that, but spread out. So by season 7, and the writers are actually very clear that when they announced season 7 and 8, they're like, we're to the end now. So in their opinion, they spent one season building up like the Human War and the White Walker War, and then the 8th season was just to do it. And when you binge it, you kind of actually, the pacing of the story is better. Like because you don't have so much time to build it up. It kind of makes sense. Like as soon as Daenerys gets to Winterfell, it's like, all right, let's kill them or go home. Like there's nothing else to do. There's no point in dragging this out. Like people are asking for 2 more seasons on just the White Walkers or some shit like that. No. Also, how much of this like political mind game cat and mouse thing can you do? You did it for 6 seasons. Like yeah. I know it's Cersei in charge now, but to be honest, like she's kind of like she had nothing to do, and I wouldn't really blame the writers. Like you can't kill any more kings or queens, like that's been done. You can't like have a war that you had a war of 5 kings already. You can't do more White Walker buildup. Like I don't know, like there wasn't much else to do. So then you get to so what I was saying is season 7. Like they start to teleport a little bit more, like they're going from place to place, and we're not getting so much of the in between. But there's really no need for it at that point, if you ask me, unless you wanted to like make new characters and keep the story going on forever, which I don't personally want. So you get to season 8. Daenerys arrives to Winterfell. You feel the tension and all that. I really like that episode. Then you have episode 2, where they're all just like preparing the night before the battle. Is that not one of the best episodes of television ever made?
And it was a filler episode, which makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, and it's all filler, and it's all amazing. Like, it's perfect. And that is how you fucking hype a big, giant battle. Like, that really is... Like, when I'm sitting there, and, like, Podrick starts singing, and it's showing everyone just, like, waiting, and they're saying, like, we're going to have just before, like, the morning comes, before they get here. And, you know, you get the feeling, like, people are going to die. Then you get to episode 3, The Long Night. And at the time, I was pretty disappointed with how many people died in this episode. In terms of how few people died.
Yeah, because you love the mass deaths.
Now, let me just say this. Does not every fucking show let you down on that aspect? Do they not all chicken out of, like, killing the guy? Or killing, like, the characters? They always escape somehow. Like, look at Endgame, like... One person died in that big battle. One hero died. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I mean, I didn't see it, remember. I just have heard about it.
I'm just saying, we give all that shit a pass. Like, I don't give those movies a pass, and I'm not giving this a pass, but every show does it. Every show, movie does it. So, that would be my number 1 criticism. Number 2 criticism is, like, why would you put the soldiers in front of the castle? That part doesn't make sense. But... The Long Night might be the greatest thing I've ever seen on television. Like, now that I've seen it a second time, it's a little too dark. They need to, like, brighten it up, even though they already brightened it up a little bit. It's a little too dark, but I'm talking about, like, literally, visually, it's too dark. Everett, you've seen it.
Yeah.
The way that they line up, like, everyone's, like, solemnly, like, waiting... Daenerys is watching over the cliff for the Night King to appear. Mm-hmm. The soldiers are about to go, and then suddenly Melisandre shows up, and she prays to the Lord of Light, and all the swords light up. And you're like,
that's impressive.
You're like, holy shit, they might actually have something here. The Dothraki charge into the darkness.
Which I've heard is moronic, by the way, despite never seeing it.
Okay, but here's the thing. The Dothraki are known for riding horses. Like, they fight on horses.
They're cavalry.
So... Like, obviously you want them on horses.
Yeah, but, like, what I've heard, so I haven't seen the scene, but this is how it's been described to me. They charge off into the night, and then you see their swords, like, extinguish one by one as the lights go out, meaning they were killed.
Right.
Okay? Just from a tactical perspective here, you do not send your light cavalry in first, especially not in the dark. What you do is you let your infantry clash. When the infantry hold them, the cavalry flank. The cavalry are not meant to be the first light cavalry. If they're heavy cavalry, it's different. But light cavalry are not meant to be your sledgehammer.
Right. And if we could say fuck that because it's stupid, at the same time I'll say in Avengers Endgame, did they all not just run in a straight line?
Yeah, and they're morons for doing
Right.
that too.
Okay. Right. Exactly. So I'm willing to give it a pass because visually they still did it really well. Emerson, you haven't actually seen it, right?
That's true. No,
You
I haven't seen it.
Okay, when you watch Everett, you know what I'm talking
No,
about. Right?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
They run out with the swords, and when Melisandre lights those swords, you actually, with the characters, you're like, oh shit, they might have something here because fire kills the White Walkers. Then they run out there, and you're like, this is kind of crazy. I wonder what they're gonna do. And they're like really like they have a lot of bravado, and they're really going out there. And the way that they show the Black Horde like coming upon them, it really hits you. Like they're just
it's like a wave almost.
It's like it's bad. As soon as that happens, like that whole all that hope and belief that you just had, that Melisandre just gave them, they immediately take it away, and you're like, whoa. And then like Daenerys and Jon are watching from the cliff, like as the wall of fire like hits an obstacle, and then you watch it in the distance as like the lights flicker away. And then you fast forward a little, like Daenerys gets on her dragon, and there's like that whole dragon fight. And then, just like cinematically, you see like the characters that you've known, so many characters, like Jaime Lannister on the ground fighting against the White Walkers, and like the sky has a lightning storm, and like he looks up at the dragons, their silhouettes, and dude, this is fucking amazing. Like, show me something that's as good as this.
Not to
in
mention
any movie.
The fact that like when you see those Dothraki die, not only is it cool,
Saving Private Ryan can beat that shit. The beach scene, the final battle.
Okay, show me what else.
I'm gonna have to think. So you're talking like these badass, like amazing fight scenes.
I'm just saying in terms of quality and like making you feel like you're there, and just like the dread, the tense feeling you have. Like,
so I got that from 1917, but I know you're gonna say no.
Oh yeah, that didn't do it for me. No, that one you could tell.
From 1917.
I was genuinely surprised that they didn't kill more people in Game of Thrones. Like I felt like they were gonna die, and then they just didn't, which that's not so great. But 1917, I never thought, once that first guy goes, you pretty much know the other guys.
No, but for me, I felt like I was there. I was like, holy shit. Because for me, but then again, I was looking at it as like a study of World War One.
So then they start falling back into the castle, and Grey Worm is there, and he has to pull the trench. Do you remember that, Everett? Mm-hmm. Like, because the first time I watched this, I was so focused on like who's gonna die that I didn't really appreciate it. And remember, this episode's like an hour and 40 minutes, so this is basically a movie, all right? And like he watches the Unsullied as they're like slowly being pushed back. They're not even looking back; they're just taking steps backwards as they hold the line, and he has to pull the trench and sacrifice them. I mean, it's so good. And then, I mean, I feel like I would have changed some things. I would have put Sam in like inside the castle trying to heal the wounded, because he didn't really belong out there anyway. And then he got his friend killed too. So
wait, where was that? Remind me of that.
When they're outside the wall, their friend Ned, the crow.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Sam basically gets him killed, yeah. Because he falls from nothing, and then Ned like picks him up and gets stabbed in the chest, and then Sam runs away. He should have been inside, like trying to help heal the wounded, and then he could have also been a part of that whole Arya sneak sequence. Like she could have been trying to help him survive, because he would have been helpless. And then you could have shown a little like that in the crypts when the dead wake up. Like nobody died there. That was stupid. Somebody should have died. Like you hear all the death, but none of the important people were even like scratched. And then I started thinking about all the characters that could have been there. Like, can you imagine if Stannis was there or if Ned Stark was there? Even
and they died or they lived.
Like, let's just say, like, forget whatever happened in the story, but let's just say that they were alive there, fighting with them. Like those characters, like to bring that amount of people, like if Robert Baratheon was there, like I don't know, it felt like Infinity War on steroids when like everyone comes together, because you had people of like Jaime Lannister, Ser Davos, all these people, Brienne, all these people that are there, Jon and Daenerys on the dragons, and And then the other part I really liked was how Jon and Daenerys were kind of canceled out in the battle. Like, they're the big heroes of the show, and they really couldn't. Like, they couldn't get anything done. And then you have Arya with the Night King, and people were like, that's stupid. But again, as I said before, like, when you realize that in the writers' minds, the only place they could go was the end. Like, White Walkers and the Iron Throne. Like, these are the only two things left. There's no point in dragging this out. So people are complaining that Arya, like, they beat him too easily. And I'm like, I really thought about it after this time. And I'm like, I don't think there was more to do. How much more, like, obviously the White Walkers will kill you. So they already had an episode at Hardhome where they get, like, severely surprised and pushed back, right? Mm-hmm. They even have that Umber boy where they like kill that castle, the people in that castle and whatever. So
and they like lynch him almost.
They had that. Then they've been teasing. If you binge it, this is my whole point. If you binge it, they've been teasing the White Walkers the whole time. They don't need to drag it out. Like, it's actually okay to do it in this. This is it. If they don't win here, then. And the other problem is storytelling wise, and I don't know if people have thought about this. Emerson, you're oh, it just went away. I don't know if people realize this, but the Starks are in the north. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they would be the first castle to get hit anyway. So, like, even if the White Walkers were going to do, like, this taking land, whole season of whatever, like, the north would be gone right away. It would push them all the way south, and they would have to fight with Cersei. But then you don't have... But once they're all together, you don't have, like, the finale for the Iron Throne. And the show is called Game of Thrones, not the White Walkers. So it's all about... The finale should be who sits on the Iron Throne, not... I think that they actually handled that part really well. What I didn't like was... So after that happened, like, you would assume that Daenerys wouldn't have any more Dothraki or Unsullied, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier, is the fact that when you see them all die, it brings up that question in the back of your head, like, isn't that the invading force that she was going to go take on Cersei with? Like, what does she do now?
Right, and that's a flaw of the episode, but not of the Long Night, but the following episode, where she shouldn't have that anymore. And also she didn't need them. Like, she had Drogon did all the work. So you actually didn't need them, other than afterwards when she's like, we're going to take over the world and all that crap. Mm-hmm. I guess she needs an army to make that a reality, but I don't know if I really like how they went there with her anyway. But I'll still say, like, the bells, that episode, I mean, it's pretty... Who else is doing something on that grand of a scale?
Yeah, you're right, but at the same time, like, they kind of cock block a bunch of the stuff that they had been promising.
Like what?
Like, the whole, like, for half the season at the very least, they had been building up that Cersei had been, like, bringing together the Golden Company, and, like, there were, like, the elephants and, like, this massive force. She was going to betray everybody, and then it just doesn't happen.
That's true. That's true.
Like, that's what I was
wanted
excited
to see that? You wanted to see that?
Well, I wanted, like, what I was going to be excited for, and that's what made the whole White Walker battle that much better for me, is the fact that you have one army, you have the Lannister army and the Golden Company, and you have Daenerys and her dragons, and the Dothraki and the Unsullied. You then see the Unsullied, the Dothraki, and one of the dragons all get wiped out pretty much. Or at the very least get halved. So now you have her at a disadvantage, and you have Cersei coming to take her down.
Right.
But then when you finally get to that end scene where the big battle's going to happen, you're going to see the underdogs fight and maybe win, something is going to happen to end this series. They completely go, not the opposite direction, but just another direction that, like, without going into full detail, like, they go in a pretty decently different direction.
You have a point about that. But I think I like Daenerys. Okay, if you have the idea of making Daenerys the Mad Queen, I could see how you would forego that. or sorry, you would ignore what you said in favor of having her just destroy everything, burn the whole city down. Like, burning the whole city down may not have been like the most extensive way to tell that story, but it is like poetic. Like, the story did set that part up of her being the Mad Queen.
You're right, and you did make a point a while ago that when people were saying like, "Oh, this came out of nowhere," like she shouldn't be the Mad Queen, she should be a just ruler with Jon Snow. You're right that they had been basically showing her as like an evil bitch
She's
the
crazy.
Entire time.
And I actually think it's sexism. Like, I think that if that had been a male, you would be like, "Oh, he's like a villainous leader." But because it was a woman, she like went under the radar every single time. When she says, "I'm going to burn your whole city down," you don't take her seriously. You're like, "You're a dumb girl.
Please let me in." No, you know what? It's against our customs. I'm fine. I'm going to burn everything down and kill you all.
I'm going to, when my dragons are grown, we're going to come back. We're going to burn everyone to death. Like, that's what she said. And even when I heard it, I was like, who cares?
She crucified like hundreds of people.
Yeah. She burned all those calls to death.
Uh-huh.
I mean, she did a lot.
There was one other thing that kind of annoyed me. The fact that earlier, I forget whether it was 8 or 7, when Drogon and the Dothraki go and attack the Lannisters after they have just raided the Tyrells, or Highgarden, I think it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The Battle of Highgarden.
And they show
that was a great battle.
It was a great battle, but they show Bronn on the Scorpion turret, and it like punches a hole, like not through Drogon, but it damages him, like shows that like level of power. You'd think that would be something that Daenerys doesn't forget about. So, like, when all that time passes and she's flying around, and then you see, like, hundreds of them on the water, on the walls, and it takes down a dragon out of nowhere, I feel like that should have been expected.
So there's two things to that. One, at Highgarden, that was actually a prototype Scorpion.
No, I know that.
So they have, like, newer ones. Like, you knew that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah,
so
the newer ones, like, packed a bigger punch.
Which are the ones that killed... which dragon was it? Viserys?
I think it was
Rhaegal.
Rhaegal died first, I think. I think Viserys was the second one.
So the difference to me, because I didn't... The first time I watched it, I was like, why are the Scorpions so effective in that other episode and now they're not? To me, it seems like, in my headcanon, is that they were not expecting the Scorpions at that time. But then when she returned later with Drogon, they were totally expecting them, and that's why, like, he didn't get hit. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the only explanation. Yeah. Anyway, so I actually, like, I missed that show. If I'm completely honest, like, I might even rewatch it again. That's how much I enjoyed it. And yes, they did forget about a lot of things in the show. And I will say that just because they forgot about it doesn't mean it needed to be told. Because there were many things from the earlier seasons where the show was supposedly at its best that they also didn't follow through on. And, like, I don't care about that either, so.
Well, okay. For me specifically, like, because I know, like, how you feel now. For me, like, those last 2 episodes, they do a lot of cool things right. But at the same time, at least for me, they do a lot of things really, really wrong. For instance...
the last episode is indefensible. It's terrible.
I know, but like the whole destruction of
King's Landing.
Yeah. The whole, like, everyone had been hyping up the Clegane Bowl thing. Like, I thought that was okay.
That was stupid.
I thought it was poetic. I thought the fact that the Hound died by falling into flames, I thought that was okay.
That part, yeah.
I thought that Jaime Lannister fighting with Euron or whatever his name is.
Euron, yeah.
I liked Euron. He was one of my favorite villains. I think he deserved a better death.
I think Jaime should have died in The Long Night.
Yeah. Either that or the thing I was going to bring up is the fact that he's such a traitor. Like, he already betrayed his sister. And then he goes back and betrays everyone at Winterfell and goes back to her. Like, I hated that.
Yeah,
and the fact how they both died in that rubble. Like, I wanted Cersei to die in such a way that would make it worth it. She did not deserve a death like that.
It's just, I just don't feel like in the past couple years, we've been let down a lot. And if I'm completely honest, I just don't feel like Game of Thrones has let me down more than anything else. And I
Well,
gotta
okay.
like I just don't feel that strongly about it in that sense. Like I don't hate it the way that I did.
I
Like
don't know.
I
I
hate Thor
mean,
Ragnarok way more than I hate the Game of Thrones finale.
I'm trying to think of a way I could defend this though. Like, Game of Thrones did a lot of things well, but they preceded it. Okay, how do I word this? The Long Night was amazing. You're right, but then that's like the standard you should set. They completely dip below that with the last few episodes.
In some ways. In other ways, they're still doing better than every other show.
Yeah, okay, fine. I can't disagree with that.
Almost better than every other show that came before it, and also will come for many years after it. Like, it's going to be hard to top anything. Even if you don't like what happens in the Bells, like, what other show can even compare with that quality?
You can't really. Like,
Yeah.
at least in the other, like, long-running shows of that caliber, the ones that come to mind, I think Breaking Bad's one of them.
Breaking Bad
That's
has a
like-
great finale, but
Br-
think about that's on a much smaller scale. Think about what Game of Thrones accomplished.
Yeah, I know. Like, they had massive budgets, they had massive everything, and they used it really, really well. And honestly, like, the fact that they're in production right now for, I don't know if it's a sequel or a prequel
It's
series.
a prequel spin-off, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm decently excited for it. At least from what I've been seeing on the cast.
Is it the same writers? It's not, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm into that. All right, let's move on from that. I also watched Jack Ryan.
What'd you think of that? I've heard conflicting things.
Not to bring it back to Game of Thrones, but
Oh my god. I
But
just
I'm
was
just-
able to get into the conversation again.
no,
You
I'm
really
just,
need to watch it, Emerson. It's really good.
You need to watch. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
eventually.
like, Jack Ryan is not a bad show. In fact, I would say it's a good show. But this is the kind of thing where I'm like, Game of Thrones is doing this, and then there's Jack Ryan that has, like, decent characters, and, like, the plot line's not bad, and that's about it. Like, think about how much money was spent on making Jack Ryan just for me to be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, yeah, I didn't hate it. Like, that's a compliment, I guess. Because the first season was a little bit better, and then the second season was okay, but it definitely, like, did this thing where, like, they'd be in locations going back and forth a lot, and I don't know. I don't know. Like, personally, I don't think I'm going to watch a third season. Even though I did like some of the globe-trotting spy stuff, but most of it kept turning into, like, an action movie. Like the last episode, or towards the end of season 2, they go to the presidential palace, like, to get the president, right? That's, like, right out of Splinter Cell. Except in Jack Ryan, they have, like, a giant shootout. Like, you see the difference? Is anyone there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
No,
just
I
listen.
understand, but you're back. I understand what you're saying, but I also think that inherently Game of Thrones it gains more by what it has more opportunity because of what it is, being a fictional world based off books that are fictional. Jack Ryan is a show that is trying to present itself as realistic. I think a lot of the things that make Game of Thrones great, aside from, the directing and the acting and stuff, is that it is in a universe where you can provide, like, sorts of things that you can't do in every other show.
Wait, have you watched Jack Ryan?
I've watched some of it. I
Okay.
haven't watched the second season.
The writing is not great.
Oh, no, I agree. And so, like, in that case, I would say, yes, I'm sure Game of Thrones has better writing. But I'm also saying a lot of the badass scenes you're talking about, these are scenes that I can't really see them being able to do in something like Jack Ryan because it's trying to be realistic. It doesn't have this mythos to draw upon.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to recommend the show where, like, the final episode is just, like, a gun shootout in the Venezuelan president's palace, but it's literally just, like, them running around with guns, and it's just kind of like uninspired television, if you ask me. The characters are not great. John Krasinski's, like, decent as him, but he also, like, the first season, he, like, really didn't want to get his hands dirty, and in this season, it's just, like, it's more action-y, and it's just not what I want from a spy show. And, like, I feel like I was watching 24. Have you guys seen that?
Yes, I
24,
like 24.
yeah.
I liked 24 for like the first 2 times, and then it like kept happening, and then this show is like that, but not as good, I guess is what I would call it. Yeah, I think I'm out for season 3. It was on my list to finish season 1. I watched all the way to season 2. I think I'm done with that.
While you guys are on the subject of Jack Ryan, have you ever seen the 2014 Jack Ryan movie?
Actually, I was going to ask you guys if you wanted to watch that next. I don't necessarily want to watch it, but I don't know anything about it.
I saw it in theaters one time. From what I remember, it's not that great.
Okay.
I'm so tired of the spies. Everything's spies, spies and agents, and
yeah.
I think if I'm correct, it's based off of the Sum of All Fears, the 2014 movie, where it's like a nuke in Denver.
I think so, something like that.
God, that Ben Affleck version was so boring.
Yeah.
I've also been watching. I've been rewatching Better Call Saul because I don't remember what happened and I haven't seen the new season because I watched it like a couple years ago. I think I like Better Call Saul better than Breaking Bad.
Really?
I think the writing is better. Like the characters are. Bob Odenkirk is amazing as Better Call Saul.
I have to get back into watching it.
But I just like I don't know. You get to breathe with the characters a little more. Breaking Bad is so like fast paced, like crazy thing. This is a little slower, and you get to live in the characters. And like I said, Saul Goodman is a great character. Like so far, I think I'm halfway through season 2. It's literally just been him trying to make it as like a legitimate lawyer, and not being able to, basically. Mm. And so like that's been the show, and like I still like it. I got the book The Art of Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is really cool because it shows you like the design process of like how they created the show. So basically they were trying to do a pitch for a kids show, and the kids are like, we don't want I wish I had it in front of me, but he's like, we want it to be from a kid's point of view. This is the kind of shit that you have to deal with when you're like pitching for, you can't just write what you think is good. They want it to be from a kid's point of view. So you can't have any show that's not about like a kid, right? Even if kids might like the show, either way, they don't even want to see it. So you have to have a kid. They wanted magic because at the time, like something like Harry Potter was popular.
Yeah.
So they're like, we want some magical stuff. And then there was like one other thing. So the two guys, they kind of came up with this. They had like sketches of random characters, and they had like this robot looking traveler guy. So they changed him into a kid, and he had like a robot sidekick, which eventually became Momo, the lemur.
Okay.
And they like did this thing where they combined animals to like make the world seem more fantastical. So like like Momo is like a bat and a lemur, and Appa is like a manatee and a bison.
Yeah.
So stuff like that.
Well, they do that like literally in the show, right? Like they have lion turtles and
yeah. No, that is what they do. Yeah.
Stuff.
That's how this got pitched. So then they like they said how they got the arrow on Aang's head, which is his friend had like a figure that had an arrow on his head. And so he just kind of like drew that, not intending it, like having no clue what it meant. So then they started doing like concept art, like what do we want to do here? And they drew a picture of like a boy shepherding the flying bison.
Okay.
Like he's just a shepherd. So, and then I guess one of the guys, Brian, he saw a movie or documentary about people trapped on the South Pole.
Okay.
And so he thought that was really cool, like people trying to survive in harsh environments, blah, blah, blah. And then he had the idea, like, what if these people are trapped in the South Pole and this flying shepherd kid has to save them? And then that led to the idea of like, well, what if he's trying to save them, but what if there's fire people who are trying to melt the ice and like kill the water people, and the air.
It's crazy, like how many steps it goes through to become what it is.
It's not, but you've seen me go through that.
No, I have, but I'm saying like it's just interesting because when thinking of like something like Avatar, you think of it as established. Like, oh, they had this idea, they made.
You're like, how could they ever make this like any other way?
Yeah, except then you see like, oh, it was actually like 10 things beforehand.
Right. So then they like get the Fire Nation, and then of course that leads to, okay, there's an Earth Nation too. um, and so the first, the way they talk, it sounds like they knew they were going to get renewed. I'm not clear on that, but the first season was definitely about the water people, and like them in the Water Nation and blah blah blah. So they had Zuko. Zuko was like a big tough guy. Also, Toph was like a big tough guy. Basically, like, and I can relate to this. Every single person kind of identified as a big tough guy.
That actually kind of makes sense because do you guys remember season 3 of Avatar where they did the recap of the entire series in the form of the play?
Yeah.
They did a bunch of in jokes with that, and one of them was they made Toph a really buff dude.
Yeah.
Is that
they made
what that's
Toph a buff
referencing?
dude? Yeah, it is. They also made Aang played by a girl, because girls typically voice boys and like young boys in cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they talked about that in the book, because they went through each episode. There was like a page for each episode on like various art things that they did. And yeah, Zuko was originally like, he was just like bigger, tougher. They had a lot of cool outfit designs too that were a little too complicated for animation. And so it was all done by Korean artists, and so they did their pilot, and it wasn't that much different than the actual pilot. It's a cool book. Like, I really recommend it if you're into that. It's not cheap though, and it's not available. I had to pay $100 on eBay. But I wanted it. I was trying to do reference for my own graphic novel, and I wanted to see like the outfits and stuff. So it was worth it for me. I also, for Christmas, I got this Game of Thrones clothing book. Like, it shows you the costuming. And I'm not really like into fashion and whatever, but I wanted to see like the thought process behind, and just some examples, maybe some alternate outfits and whatever. Dude, this is a fantastic book if you're into that sort of thing. They have like such high res photos of and close ups. Like, you really see, like, Everett, remember in season 7 or 8 when Daenerys is wearing that like white fur coat,
And it's got like the dragon metal thing hanging down.
so it's a red coat with white fur on it.
Uh-huh.
And so, and when you look close up, like the red and the white have like blended into the fur. It looks fucking awesome, and it has like dragon's teeth around it. If you look, like, it looks really cool.
No, they did an amazing job with costume design in that show.
And did you notice, like, the Lannister armor is all samurai?
Yeah,
I never
I
picked
noticed
up
that.
on that.
They've got like Bushido armor, sort of.
Yeah, Cersei wears kimonos, like, all the time.
I kind of picked up on that a little
I did
bit,
not
yeah.
pick up, yeah. So, and then it showed like the North and all of Sansa's dresses. Like, if you're into that sort of thing, I'm not totally into it, but you know. All right, gaming. Was there anything?
Not. Oh yes, the Crysis Remaster.
Oh,
So-
is it out?
No, but it was announced. So Crysis, the original game that would destroy computers and could not be run, is getting a remaster. It is being released on Xbox One, PS4, PC, and Nintendo Switch, which is interesting. And so it's coming out. People are really excited for it. This was like the game that was the benchmark.
So it's
So-
remaster, but it's also on Nintendo Switch.
Yes, because they essentially... Okay, the fact that it's on Nintendo Switch means this isn't just like an update. They probably optimized the hell out of this. If it's going to run at all, it needs to be good.
I mean, Nintendo Switch can run some pretty hefty games. It can run Skyrim pretty well.
This is nothing like Skyrim. This is a whole new level.
But if it's a remaster made for also Xbox, you'd think that it would be.
Beefy.
Yeah.
And Crysis on its own was beefy. Like, let me put it this way. Based on, like, there were computers that are 4 or 5 times more powerful than the Nintendo Switch that could not run Crysis, the first one, when it came out. The Nintendo Switch is not strong enough for original Crysis, so this thing must be optimized to hell and back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. No trailers, no box office, and let's go. some news about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ooh, all right.
Let's see. No. Where is it? Okay, Guardians of the Galaxy has no plans for a fourth movie after Volume 3. James Gunn, I absolutely never said I wouldn't do a Volume 2, as I plan to do a trilogy from the beginning if the first one worked. I have no plans to do a fourth. I honestly don't care. Like, if there's a third one, I mean, there is a third one, so, like, for sure do a third one. But if you do a third one and you don't want to do a fourth one, like, we have enough of them.
I mean, in terms of, like, that, like, filmmaking and stuff, like, 3 is, like, the magic number. The fact that Thor is getting a fourth movie is kind of weird in itself. Like, keeping it at 3 is fine.
I actually think 4 is the magic number if you can do it right. Problem is, getting 2 right is usually hard. Getting 3 is like, if you do 2 right, you can probably get 3. But if you can't do 2, your third one, that typically seems to be the way. And then your fourth one, usually you get to do something cool. Like Dark Knight Rises is a fourth movie to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was kind of done with the Guardians after Infinity War. Like, I got kind of tired of them. They're really tied to Thanos and the Infinity Stones, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, if that's over, like, you don't, like, Drax is done.
Yeah.
Even Star-Lord could be done.
Even Gamora.
Gamora's also done. Nebula,
Well, she was
guess,
done and they brought her back.
I guess Nebula could be something else. Mantis, I don't even care for Mantis.
Rocket and Nebula can stand on their own.
Right.
Which is ironic because
I'm
they
a
were
little
the only
tired
two
of
left
Rocket.
alive.
Also, Rocket has a shorter lifespan, so hopefully he'll die soon.
Oh
Well,
my
you know
God.
what the kind of weird thing is? Like, they've said that they're going to focus on Rocket for the third movie a lot, but I feel like they don't need that because they spent the last movie focusing on him a lot with Yondu.
When they say that, when I played the Telltale game, there was like an origin for him where he was with like a female raccoon or something.
Oh.
And so I assume there's something to do like that. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will feature a death, promises writer and director James Gunn.
Yeah. It's
It's Rocket.
Drax.
It's
Yeah,
Rocket.
I think it's going to be Drax.
I think it's going to be Rocket. I really do. But I'm not excited for that. You know how, like, we used to get hyped over stuff like that?
Well, because who gives a shit?
They've
They
already
always-
like hit the peak. Like
They
Endgame
always give
was
him
the
such...
end.
Right, but they always give him such soft deaths, and it never lives up to expectations, you know? This is why, like, I can't get mad at Game of Thrones when every movie does this.
Rocket's going to get euthanized.
That would be sick. Like, show me... For
Oh
once,
my
I want to
God.
see, like, one of these Disney franchise characters. I want to see one of them just to get headshotted by a sniper and just drop. Like, just do that. Do you have the guts to do that just one time?
No.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, let her get headshot. I'd be happy with that.
Whoa. Crime against women, Everett?
No, it has nothing to do with women. It's the fact she's
Uh,
a terrible
Red pill.
character.
Oh, okay. I just said Rocket. Why does Rocket get peacefully euthanized and Captain Marvel gets a bullet in the head?
Because Captain Marvel is a soldier and a woman, and
What?
Raccoon is a literal animal.
Did you say woman?
Damn, Everett.
A human being! Rocket
That's not
is
what you
a-
said.
Everett,
That's not what you said.
woman. Oh,
Okay,
God.
I'm
You
not
said
gonna
women are
educate
not human beings.
Damn. Inseldom confirmed.
Okay, Captain Marvel sequel rumored to pave the way for a new Avengers movie. Okay, if this is true, I'm gonna say that the sequel is gonna be bad.
Why?
Whenever they make movies that are meant to set up like the next big thing, that never works. Couple that with the fact that the first one had such bad writing that it's almost unwatchable for me, and couple that with the fact that the character is actually not that interesting. Like, it's really her origin that's interesting, and it's not even that interesting. She doesn't have any good villains. She's totally overpowered, and she's going to be on some plot that sets up other characters. Yeah, this is a lot of red flags.
They should focus on
Yeah.
other stuff. Like, focus on the Fantastic Four. It's the stuff I want to see.
The movie will focus on Carol Danvers being established as the leader of the new roster in her next solo outing. Well, whatever. Like, is she...
Even the
Okay.
whole thing, we've talked about this before. The entire universe has kind of just been turned down, and like it doesn't really like. I don't know, man.
If they made a new Avengers movie, like they called it New Avengers, and her character arc was to like be the new leader, that I could get on board with. But if you're gonna call it Captain Marvel, and then she's gonna be trying to be a leader of this new group of characters that they're trying to set up, that doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give her like a side arc of trying to be the leader while you focus on like the team, that could work potentially. But yeah, I'm not crazy about that. Mulan 2 is reportedly in early development in
Oh
Disney,
my God.
despite
The first
the
one
first
hasn't even come out
installment's
yet.
delay. Yeah.
They don't care. In spite of the fact that the film is basically owned by China, and the star has been supporting China against Hong Kong.
They
Yeah.
gutted the original movie.
She sided with. She's like, I respect the Hong Kong police force. I stand with them against the protesters.
Oh, but weren't people saying that like she was forced to say that?
Whether she was or wasn't, it's like that's bad too. Don't support the movie if she's forced to say it, and if she's not forced to say it, then she's a piece of crap.
Yeah, so you're right. It's probably going to make a lot of money from China and make a sequel. Some Suicide Squad. James Gunn reveals when the movie takes place in the DCEU timeline. There's a timeline? Gunn responded by saying that the movie takes place in the year it comes out.
So what?
So
2021?
it sounds like, yeah, it's coming out after, like, chronologically. Like, this is the newest movie. Who cares? The Suicide Squad first footage could be released this year as James Gunn teases R rating. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna have Hall H all to themselves. It's
I mean, they should. If they have something, they should release it now because like we have nothing to report on in terms of trailers and whatever. What is this? Dune. Have you guys seen the original Dune?
Yep.
I have not.
Parts of it.
So
I love the original Dune.
there are some images coming out for the remake. We should watch the original when this one comes out. Timothée Chalamet in a weird trench coat walking on a beach. Armored Oscar Isaac looks not so great. Asian guy looking out. Is that Jason Momoa?
Yeah, he's in there.
He's wielding a sword. Josh Brolin in the armor. Some chick in Sith robes. Zendaya looking like Rey when she was a scavenger. Some other chick. The director. More Zendaya. They're just staring out into the desert. Like every picture is just staring at sand. A picture of a bunch of people standing, like the cast, I assume, but they're like all shadowed, so you can't really tell. Yeah, okay. A mythic and emotionally charged hero's journey, Dune tells the story of Paul Atreides. Is that how you say? Atreides? A brilliant and gifted young man born into a great destiny beyond his understanding, who must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, a commodity palpable of unlocking humanity's greatest potential, only those who can conquer fear will survive. Jesus fucking Christ.
You see now why I'm hesitant to think this will be any good. This is an incredibly condensed and incredibly thick story. And it has a very high level
Wait, have
of
you seen it?
worship. I've read it.
Oh, okay.
It has a very high level of worship. And there is like a very high level of like, it's the greatest thing ever. It's not bad. I am very hesitant to become excited for this movie because I highly doubt it can be done correctly. If it is and it's great, awesome, I'll enjoy it. But I am not going to get hyped up for this like so many people are because I have a sneaking suspicion it could devolve into something bad.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on some parts of that. Like, at least for me, I'm a massive fanboy of Dune, but I'm still very hesitant about it as well. There are a lot of points where they could fuck it up.
You've read
royally.
the book, yes?
A long, long time ago, yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very, very heavy.
It's heavy and it can be very confusing. And it can be, like, they have to be very careful with this because they could really fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca Ferguson is in it. I like her.
Playing who?
Lady Jessica.
Oh, okay.
Oscar Isaac as Duke Leto Atreides.
Okay.
Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck.
Okay.
Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
Yeah, the Harkonnen Baron. I love him. That's a perfect casting in my opinion.
Dave Bautista as Glossu Raban. Zendaya as Chani. David Dastmalchian as Peter De Vries. Stephen McKinley Henderson. I don't know who that is. Charlotte Rampling. I don't know. Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho. What?
He's like a side character.
Javier Bardem as Stilgar. Sharon Duncan Brewster as Dr. Leet Kynes. Cheng Chen as Dr. Wellington Yu. Hits theaters December 18th.
Do they not have a Paul Atreides yet?
Timothy Chalamet.
Timothy Chalamet. Okay.
All right, where were we? Dude. All right, Snyder Cut. There were reportedly no plans for the Snyder Cut to be released on HBO Max. I guess that was a rumor going around. They should do it. They should do it right now. People would watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, I would watch it. What else? We have some other crap. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Oh, never mind. There was an interview with the special effects guy. His responsibilities. Normally, I suppose my responsibilities fall into creating and bringing to the table the creatures, aliens, droids, all of which can be created in a whole number of ways. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't actually read this interview, so I don't know if it's any good. Do you guys care?
Not really, but...
He doesn't seem like he's saying anything.
Okay.
There's a big scene in the middle of the film with Luke and Leia where they're seen training and fans finally get to see Leia wield a lightsaber. I imagine most of it had to be done with archive footage and a body double, but could you touch on just realizing that sequence? Yeah. I had worked very hard on establishing the methodology on how to shoot Carrie. The whole sequence... Oh, God damn it. There's like dogs barking outside and mine heard that finally. The whole sequence we had to commit to on the day because there could be no other version of that if archival footage was to be used, and so the whole sequence was approached with that footage already there. Oh, interesting. It was almost like these are the angles that we've got. These are the parts that can be used. It's so funny that they did it like that. Roger had already established all of those things. I mean, we did look at potentially using pullover masks, any of those things to help that composition, but really, it truly wasn't needed because once we broke down and the sequence was shot in such a way that Roger knew that he could use that footage we had, then it was a case of execution. It was done quite clinically in order to make it happen. Clinical from the perspective of visual effect, but obviously shot with as much emotion and as much care that JJ needed to put into that moment. Interesting. They could only use certain angles. That was kind of a weird scene. I don't know if it was as successful as he says.
Yeah, they look the de-aging was pretty shitty.
Okay. Matt Reeves praises the film's cast and crew for the Batman, weighs in on why a billionaire superhero still works. The short answer is that it's going to be great. We have an incredible cast and crew that I love working with. I'm working with the director of photography who I shot Let Me In with, who I think is immensely talented. Bringing that partnership back to life has been incredibly exciting for me and a lot of people whom I work with, blah, blah, blah. Robert is a fantastic actor. Okay. To me, that's the joy of working with it. You use those surface elements of it and you explore them in a way that I feel they haven't been explored yet. Nolan had a brilliant take on them, and so did Burton. I guess he's talking about like rich people. Everybody has a particular take. I wanted to do a Batman film where I was allowed to explore the things that matter to me. All of those aspects you're talking about, they all fit within context. The movie that we're making, which is now on pause, is absolutely made in the context of today. It doesn't ignore any of that. That's really funny.
Yeah, that's...
The movie that we're making is absolutely made on the context of the day, but we're not making it right now because of what's happening.
Yeah.
So... All right, and then one last thing. DC Comics announces plans to start publishing new titles again. So,
interesting.
Just got the go-ahead to let all of you know that we're holding Batman number 92 back for a June release so we can make sure to get it to as many of you as possible on its release day. Oh, I forgot. There was something that I read. I got the comic Batman Last Night on Earth.
Yeah.
Which is made by the... Remember I was telling you about those Scott Snyder and
yes.
that group of people? So this is like their other book that came out. This one was also pretty terrible. It started off better. Basically, Batman wakes up. Oh no, Batman goes to investigate like a crime scene, and I'm not giving away too much, like I'm being vague. And there's a dead child there, but when Batman like inspects him, the child shoots him and kills him. Okay. And then he wakes up in Arkham Asylum, and Alfred says it's been 20 years, and that he's always been a patient there ever since his parents died, and that like the librarian, his name was like Rasa Al Ghul, and that he thinks that, you know, he thinks he's like a villain or something. He thinks everyone around him is a villain. Harley Quinn is like a nurse. So basically, they're telling him everything about his life is a fake, and that he's not the real Batman. Come to find out, like, he escapes, and he finds Joker's head in a lantern. Like, the world has ended, and Joker's head talks to him. And the original Batman, because the world was ending or something, he decided to make a clone of himself for every generation so that there would always be a Batman. Okay. So he's the clone. And there's this new villain called Omega that like destroyed the world. And then I don't know, there's like Superman clones. Okay. And so Wonder Woman has a mohawk. And like I really can't follow the story. It's, and you know, I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's like it's okay. And then it ends in a really weird way, like a new Superman land, like a new baby Superman lands.
What the fuck?
Where Batman draws an X in the ground. I don't know what's going on. And like Batman's gonna raise it with Wonder Woman as his wife, and
what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. So that was pretty bad. I wish I could get rid of the book. Like I don't even want to keep it on my shelf. So I might give it away to maybe you, Everette. So,
I mean, sure, and then I'll give it to someone.
All right. That's it, I think. So for next week, I don't really want to watch that Jack Ryan thing.
No,
I agree.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen the movie The Next 3 Days?
Nope.
No, don't even know what that is.
Let's watch that.
Okay.
It's not a spy movie per se, but it's...
Oh, God.
It's not a spy movie. But
why are we only doing spy movies?
I'm just going from one thing to another. I think this is one that ever since I saw it in the theater, I had always kind of wanted to rewatch it. Yeah, I remember it being good, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you guys next week.
See you.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Iron Coop Fights Movies. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, review our podcast on iTunes so that we can spread the show around. To contact the show, you can reach us at theironcoob@gmail.com and on Instagram at theironcoob. Join us for another edition of the Iron Coop Fights Movies.